Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hanging with Howie. Tonight, we have the usual cast of characters and some folks we haven't seen before. Oh, where did Aaron go? Oh, he's gone. Okay.
Log back in.
All right. Well, we have Jay with us. Brian, of course, as usual, always here. We have Buddy with us.
Or whatever his name is.
Or if you prefer, Ralph.
Secret Agent Buddy.
Of course, John.
Secret.
And we have Bill Marsh with us. And guys, I thought maybe a little refresher course with some new tips on protecting our gear in inclement weather, whether it's, in Jay's case, really hot at times, but there's a lot of us up north here now that are going to be doing, outdoor things. And, if you don't, not undercover, Brian, you've done a video a few years back about leaving gear in the car, and you do like a reverse setup. You'll do your lights first, let your sound system warm up.
Yeah.
Once you get in there.
Sure. When we riff on it, I can riff on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to work if you have a van, if you have a SUV. It's not going to work if you're using the pickup with a cap on it, which I used to use. And the problem with using a pickup with a cap, if I had gear in there, it was just whatever the temperature was outside, and it gets very cold here in Wisconsin. So when I got the SUV, wasn't even thinking I was thinking about, but I slowly warmed the gear with the rest of the vehicle with the heater on the way to the event. So it's not as cold as when I get to the event anymore, because it's kind of warm because I warmed the vehicle up. In the old days, when I used to just bring it in cold, if it was really cold outside, it would get condensation on it right away in rooms where people were talking and things, and you're almost afraid to turn your equipment on at that point because it's wet. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea to keep your major electronics, in the, I guess, main cabinet of your vehicle when it's cold outside, just for the heat.
Yeah, that's what I do. And one of the things they were talking about was that just a quick tip. That new EV speaker. The last show they were talking about how hard it is to get those weatherproof caps off.
Not that hard. It's confusing the first time out.
Yeah, and something that will be helpful to you is petroleum jelly. It's non-conductive. They actually use it inside the moving heads for the motors and the gears. That's what they lube the gears with. And if it does drop off onto the PC board, it won't short anything out. So if you have, maybe you drop something and you've got a little bit of a crack, you got inclement weather, you could rub a little bit of petroleum jelly on that. It'll get you by for the night type of thing. All right. Anybody else have some tips to protect your equipment in inclement weather?
I think that bags for your speakers are an important thing to have, your speaker covers. And some of the manufacturers, and depending on the manufacturer of the speaker bag, some do have more weather resistant covers. And especially, up in our area, and then, I'm in Chicago, they're talking snow tomorrow. Depending when they watch this, could be summertime, but it doesn't matter. It's still, you want to protect your gear. And I think that just from inclement weather, a speaker cover that cover, even from the manufacturer cover, may not be 100% waterproof, but if you can reduce the amount of moisture and protect it from temperatures, just protecting it, period, from bumps and bruises. I think it's an important thing right there. Just having that extra protection. And I see a lot of DJs at venues that have no covers whatsoever speakers, and it's like not only they're scratched up and stuff like that, but again, you go outside, it rains, it's hot, or it's cold. Having that extra layer of protection, I feel it gives a little bit more.
Well, there is. You can look it up on Google for the viewers and anybody else that may be looking for them. There's a company in New York that makes a cover that's weatherproof, but it lets the sound out. The rest of it, of it is padded and waterproof, and the front looks like almost like a screen door, but it won't let water in, but it lets sound out. They developed they're pricey, but if you're doing, it's holiday time. There's going to be a lot of outdoor events, and so there's going to be some. There'll be some problems, especially if it goes down below zero. You better fire them things up, even if it's, not raining or snowing. Fire them up quick, even at a low volume to keep the voice calls moving. And if you're using lights, have them moving, that sort of thing.
I think one of the things too is to be proactive. I did a wedding October 22nd, and all week they were talking about rain. And I called the clients early in the week and I said, I have to do this as a professional. There's talk of rain. Do you have a plan? And they said, we're working on it tomorrow. We'll let you know. And Tuesday night, they said, we've bought 10 by 20 or 10 by 10 pop-ups that we're going to cover the tables with, cover the dance floor with. It was a backyard wedding. And they said, do you have one? I said, no, I don't. Well, we're going to get another one for you. Okay, great. The wedding was supposed to go till 10. I started at 3, and I told them I no longer felt safe at about 10 after 9 because it started raining at about 7 o'clock. And if you go to my TikTok channel, you can see the video. It's pouring. And I learned that the Chave Freedom Par 65s are absolutely IP65 because I had 4 of them lit up in the rain for about 3 hours.
Wow.
And all 4 of them are fine. I've used them since then twice, and they were flawless. But it really came when it started coming down. I said, guys, I'm covered, but the rain is blowing in on things. And if it gets to the laptop or if it gets to the electronics, this is a done deal. I've got to stop. And they said, no, we totally understand. The other downside was the best place for me to be was where they had a seating area. And I said, is there any way I can go under there? Oh, that's where people are going to be milling around and sitting in the photo booth. I said, okay, not a problem. And in my head, I said, obviously the photo booth is more valuable than the DJ. But, my wedding Saturday night, I started at 2, going till 10. And they got on the dance floor at like maybe 6:45. And they raged till like 8:30, and it started to thin out. And it was freezing from the time the sun went down. Now, I know all you robust human beings in your beautiful Midwest states are going to be offended at this, but it was windy and in the high 40s, low 50s.
That's cold.
And when you're trying to DJ and touch a trackpad and touch buttons and things, it's really, really cold. So, I'm working outside at a military base, the Camp Pendleton Marine Base, this Saturday for a tree lighting. But it's 5 to 8. I already know it's going to be cold, so I'll bring a hoodie. But outside of that, that's as good as I can do.
Is that the Gomer Pyle place?
I don't know if they ever shot there. They may have. It's been there.
It's supposed to be there, I think.
No, they shot it on the set at Desilu Studios
but it's supposed to be there, I think.
I think it's supposed to be
Camp
Pendleton,
it's supposed to be
San Diego. The as far as the heat's concerned, excuse me, I'm going to be blunt. If you don't have gear that can run without a laptop, when you're hitting 110, 115, 114, you're not going to make the gear. I've had 5 events in the last 2 years that laptops all shut down. Brand new Macs, old Macs, doesn't matter. Windows machine, new or old, it doesn't matter. They don't run at that temperature. So you can put a fan under it. You can put an ice pack under it. You can do whatever you want. But on all 5 occasions, if I didn't have a flash drive plugged into my XZ, I would have had to stop playing. So it might be worth investing a few $100 and getting a second piece that runs independent of a laptop. Because I think you'll find an iPad would probably last longer in the heat. A phone might last longer. You know?
I think I mentioned this once before that I went on Apple's website to find out, and they rate their gear at down to 40 degrees and only up to 95, I think 95 degrees, and that's it. So now, like this thing I'm going to do for Eric, the Empire State Games, we're going to be outside for 12 days. So what I did last year when I went up there, I warned him. I said, look, it's going to go way down. I said, we did the setup the night before. He says, okay, good. I said, Eric, don't shut the equipment down. For you guys that might be doing these Christmas things, whatever. If you set up overnight, the day before, like we did, we let the movers and the lights on and let them just move real slow. And, we dimmed them a little bit. And then the speakers were very important. He had them covered, but he had it at a very, very low volume, just enough to move the voice coils to keep them from freezing, and just let them overnight. And then we came back the next day and did the show. And that's what we're going to do again.
I can't give you a definitive, qualified answer to this, but I can tell you that Pulse has run CDJs and controllers in Vancouver at like 28 degrees Fahrenheit on purpose to see if there'd be an issue. And I've run controllers in direct sunlight at 105 with no issue. The controllers weren't the issue. The weak link in the computer is always the computer.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a brand new one I started using a couple weeks ago for the 24-hour set. So obviously the gears run 24 hours twice. So we know the gear will run no issue. And the laptop runs no issue, really light CPU. But, I had this talk in Vegas back last year at Expo about, or at X, whatever the little guy's calling the thing. I don't even know what it's called anymore. I can't remember. And it was with Vegas DJs that are like, yeah, most of the DJ booths in Vegas have an air conditioner. I'm like, you're kidding. They're like, no, they have them set up for the laptops and the gear because it's too hot. So the DJ booth, even though it's open, it's really, really cool in there because they've realized electronics and heat just don't match.
How about you guys? Is there anybody else doing any kind of gigs in the cold? You guys, the rest of you guys are up north here.
Well, I was thinking of the old days, back in the old days, where in Bill Marsh's case, it's like modern day. When we were using CDs.
Wow. Doesn't miss a chance to take a shot.
No, Bill's still using them.
No, he saw Bill walking. He's like, sucker punch, watch this.
No, and I happen to be ripping in a bunch of CDs that I grabbed from storage right now.
I know about that.
But no, I got more today. But anyway, if you didn't warm these things up before you brought them inside, or, before you used them, they would
the haze over.
Yeah, it haze over.
To clean them
and
up.
The optics don't read that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Bill, how do you, because that happened to me back in the day, how do you deal when the temperature is 75 during the day and it drops to, 45 at night in your area? Or do you have that dramatic of a pitch? Because that was the issue at night was I would put a little fan on the side of the table and keep the air flowing because I knew the lasers would start to haze over at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and that was a comment I made once before is, especially for summertime, even when you have that, big dip from day to night, you're going to have a high dew point if it's humid out. Mm-hmm. So I would have a fan running, basically on the ground and angled up to just circulate the air in my space. Sometimes even when I was indoors, if it was a situation where I was worried about the air conditioning being too cold or something, but mostly it was, for an outdoor thing. Another trick I do, talking about the CD thing, is kind of like Brian was saying in the reverse setup order. The very first cases I will open when I load in are my CD cases if they've been out in the truck in the cold. And if I have to, I will put a fan on them. I've even carried one of those little ceramic heater fan type things to blow warm air across them and get them up to temperature. I also have always kept a couple of microfiber cloths with me so that, if I do pull a CD out of the case and it's got some condensation on it, I can just real quickly, warm it up before putting it in, if I need it. But, I'm using them so little now that it almost isn't, a concern until we get into real cold situations. The other thing that I do always for summer, winter, whatever, and it's just as good to do it for your controller as it is for my CD players and my mixer, is I buy some nice plush, but, inexpensive hand towels whenever I see them on clearance. And I lay the hand towels out on top of my system before putting the lid on. And that helps absorb moisture while they're, in the case. It also just, fills a little bit more of the air and has things rattle around a lot less. To me, babying your stuff is just smart business. And so whatever cases you can get, whatever extra padding you can get, it's just a smart play. And, I can imagine when I get a controller, it will never be in the back of my truck. It'll be in the area behind my front seat.
Do you think we'll be driving trucks in 2032?
That's what I was thinking.
Well, it's either that or my hovercraft. One of
the flying car,
yeah. Probably be on a hoverboard.
Yeah.
I would just call Tesla now, because by the time you get on board with the controllers, I'm sure Tesla will be the predominant car manufacturer. So
this is true.
Maybe not after what happened this week.
Well, yeah,
with that self-driving one.
That's and the owner of the company. Yeah.
And he might be. I don't know if anybody saw Saturday Night Live with Chappelle, where he was like, "Oh, when you're a billionaire, you don't show your chain." And he's like, "Millionaires, yeah, they show chains and jewelry, but billionaires, we don't have to do that." So
he was quoting Kanye.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was goofing on Kanye.
Yeah,
but that was one of the best openings 15 minutes I've seen in a long time. That was really, really good, but it was hilarious. He took his chain and put it inside. Just like, Elon Musk, he's going to have his gold chain come out because he's not going to be a billionaire too much longer.
No, don't have to tuck the chain anymore. No.
Yeah. Sorry, you're down to being a millionaire.
Yeah.
So
I'll take a round on this. Just it's important where you store the stuff too. I mean, moisture is a DJ's enemy, and rain more so than snow. Snow is damp, but snow brushes off, and it doesn't necessarily make everything wet. But rain and humid, speakers are made better than they used to be. And used to be the paper would come unglued from the cone. If it was too hot, the glue would melt, and the speaker would just come apart. Speakers are made better, but don't store them in damp cellars. Don't just leave them in trash bags sitting outside next to your shed. Put them somewhere that's kind of climate controlled, and take a forward thinking to not say, well, let's just hope they work when we get into the gear. Store them somewhere where they're kind of in the same temperature they're going to be operating in. If you have a show, that way they're only spending a limited amount of time in travel with you. Then when they get there, they're kind of ready. the paper's dry and they're not going to fail because of, hot temperatures. And the same with cold. I mean, I've cracked speakers in the cold before, but they were passives. There was no amps in them to warm them, and there was nothing. It was just it was so cold it couldn't move. And I've had a cone split on woofers before, and I think they're made better now. I think the technology is advanced enough that the speakers are a little more durable, but the electronics, as far as the computers and the controllers, you got to be super conscious of where you keep them, and are they riding in the cab? Running your defrost with the AC to keep the dampness down, because it's the moisture. Because we're talking about going into the winter months.
Right.
Comes out of it's less now because we're not using the CD players as much. Sorry, Bill. All good. But even the computers with moisture inside, you don't want to take the chance. Like, you wouldn't sit outside on a rainy day in a picnic table and run your laptop. So don't chance that at a gig. Keep it in a bag with lots of the silicone packets, the little desiccants to soak up some of the moisture when you store it. And do the things ahead of time, so you're not going to end up at a gig and have something crap out that you didn't see coming. That's
I think, add to that, John, I think one of the things is that as a DJ, I know you guys usually show up to a facility usually a few hours prior to, usually 2 or 3 hours. I do 2 or 3 hours. And I think what Brian said, let it come to temperature, let the stuff come to temperature. And that way, you're there. If you wait 10, 15, a half hour to plug stuff in and let it come up more, set stuff up. You can connect, still put the speaker on the stand, still put, connect your Evolve 50s. You can still connect everything, build everything, plug everything in. Just don't power it up. Let it come to temperature. Let it come up in temperature. Let it, watch for moisture, sap up that moisture, and just let it just sit there for a little bit. Take a breather. Plus, it gives you a little bit of a break too, because you're there early enough as a professional, and you still want to be able to test everything before the guests arrive to the event. But having, again, an extra 15, 20 minutes built into your time, especially when it's cold, or if it's opposite, if it's really hot out and you go into an air-conditioned area, right? You want to bring the temperature down and everything, make sure everything's running right, because computers don't like heat. As Howie said, Apple doesn't like that high heat. Above 95 degrees, your computer's 110 degrees sitting in your vehicle, because you have air in your vehicle, wherever it is, outside for a while. Give it a few minutes, let it cool down as well as heat up. Let the temperature come up to room temperature, or as close as possible for running it.
I think I would caution, I'm with you about putting your speakers on tripods and all that, but what I would caution against, if it's cold, is cabling. Moving your cables around, plugging anything in, because your cables are cold and you try to move them, you can break them.
Stiff.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
They're stiff.
Like tree branches at that point. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then try taping them down. Try to put gaffer tape on. It's not going to stick right. It's not going to work right.
So it doesn't stick in the cold. No.
Yeah, you can lay them down if you have them, available. Open up the little box or container or bag where you have your cables in. Like for me, I have plastic totes.
Well, yeah. Take them out, lay them out, let them warm up.
Yeah, let them come to room temperature. Let them come up to temperature. It's kind of like, when you look at cooking shows, they always tell you let the meat come to kind of room temperature before you put it onto a grill or frying pan or whatever. Have it come up so it's easier to cook. Just for a short time. But again, to get these cables closer, if it's 20 degrees outside and it's 70 degrees in the building, let it come up to about 60 degrees or so. You'll see the cables moving much easier. Again, you don't want to break the cable
definitely got to warm those up.
Right. It's like moving spaghetti. Like, you wouldn't eat raw spaghetti. And when your cables are all wrapped up in nice little bundles and you start hearing that noise when you're trying to straighten them out, like maybe that just needs to sit in here and warm up a minute.
Well, there are people, not me, but I do see people from time to time that like take spaghetti and break it up into little pieces.
Oh,
I like, regular whole stocks in there, but it's one of the things that I don't want to, I just don't want to damage stuff. And that's one of the important things is take your time. That's the more important things is take your time. If you got to wait an extra 10, 15 minutes to protect your investment, because that's what it is. It's an investment. Those cables cost money. The equipment costs money. Nothing's cheap. And it's hard to get a hold of right now. Just give it an extra 10, 15, 20 minutes. Let it come up to temperature a little bit more.
All righty. Well, John said keep the show to 20 minutes to a half hour. So I think we're going to end cooking with Buddy right now. And we're going to sign off. And we'll, as always, if you have a topic you'd like us to cover or you have any questions when this goes to YouTube in a week or two, leave it in the comments there. I always check there. And we will get to it. With that, we're going to say goodnight, and we'll see you tomorrow night for Brian's music show with